Welcome back, art lovers. In our last episode, we tackled all things ancient Greece and Rome. But today we're heading into a new era, the dawn of Christianity and the Byzantine Empire. Spoiler alert, plenty of mosaic, gold and religious symbolism. So are you ready to see what's all about in early Christianity and Byzantine period? So the Roman Empire didn't just collapse overnight. While it crumbled in the West, Christianity was on the rise. And when you're trying to start a new religion, or at least spread it, art becomes a crucial tool to do so. The early Christians had to find clever ways to communicate their beliefs without drawing too much attention. Because if we look at the history, at the beginning of Christianity wasn't a very welcome religion. Since getting fed to lions in the Colosseum was a real risk. Catacombs of Rome. Early Christian art literally started underground, in the catacombs of Rome. Think of it like the secret art galleries, only for people within their own circle. So these galleries of ancient world, where frescoes such as the Good Shepherd in the catacombs of Pristina show Jesus as a humble shepherd, but with subtle allusions to classical Greek and Roman art styles. He looks a bit like a young Apollo, doesn't he? It's a mix of Christian faith, but using techniques known from classical in style. Because being a Christian back in the day was a risky thing, the use of symbolism was key. You've got the fish symbol, the hero, a combination of Greek letters he and rho symbolizing Christ, and of course a lot of depictions of biblical stories, like John and the whale, which represented resurrection and salvation. Everything had a deeper meaning, allegorical, I would say, like a spiritual scavenger hunt, because people wanted to surround themselves with things that they were meaningful to them without being too obvious and risking their lives. Because at a certain point, the main meal of animals in Colosseum were Christians. Long story short, in the 4th century after Christ, the Roman Empire officially adopted Christianity. And this is where all the things got a bit more flashier, because simply they were allowed. Especially in Eastern Byzantine Empire, things were really boiling hot. Byzantine art from about 330 to 1453, this millennium, it's like a love child of the ancient Roman and Christian spirituality. And it's all about the transcendence, art that lifts your mind and soul towards the divine, which makes sense if you think that ancients really focused on ideal proportions, balance, and then you add spiritual aspect to the art. So, very crucial part of Byzantine art was mosaics. For example, the glory of gold. Forget paint, the Byzantines were obsessed with mosaics. Why? Because tiny tiles of glass, stone and gold caught the light and sparkled like the heavens. Makes sense. Look at the Hagia Sophia, built in Constantinople. Hagia Sophia was created in 537. It was more than just a church. It was a masterpiece of architecture and decoration. The mosaics of Jesus, Mary and saints shimmered with golden backgrounds, creating a sense of divine light and glory. It gives you that impression that the figures are glowing, almost like from the inside out. A great example of Byzantine mosaic style painting is the Christ Pantocrat mosaic, which shows Christ in a frontal authority pose with one hand raised in blessing gesture. His expression calm but confident, and some say powerful. That wasn't your typical good shepherd anymore. This was Christ, the ruler of the universe. While we are on the topic of religious images, let's talk about icons. This is a very specific type of art. Icons in Byzantine aren't just pretty pictures or pictures in a certain style. They are seen as window to heaven. Icons are usually painted on panels, wooden panels. And a good example is Virgin and a Child Enthroned from the monastery of St. Catherine, where the faces are solemn, highly stylized and frontal. These images were designed to inspire worship, not to depict everyday life. Icons are still very popular objects in modern Christianity, and their style hasn't changed since the Byzantine times. If you would like to see a whole video on icons, let me know in the comments. So an interesting thing is that Byzantine artists weren't into realistic perspective. They wanted figures to feel otherworldly, like saints and heavenly forces, right? So you get these flattened, elongated figures that seem to hover in the spiritual realm. It's like the artist saying, we are beyond the reality. Talking about Byzantine architecture, it's all, again, about creating heavenly space on earth. And nothing says heavenly like a good dome. Am I right? We mentioned already Hagia Sophia, but let's get back to this magnificent building. The dome in Hagia Sophia was massive. It seems like it was floating above the space. The architects used a trick called pendant to transition from the square base to the ground dome, which gives illusion that the dome is on suspension, probably from heaven. So now you can imagine you have cube and here you have dome. You're here, tiny human, looking at it from bottom. When light floats in through the windows, it's like divine rays of glory filling the church. The effect is really breathtaking. Another very interesting and well preserved until these days is the Church of San Vitale in Ravenna, Italy, built around 547 our millennium. Inside you'll find some of the most famous Byzantine mosaics, like the Emperor Justinian and his attendants. Notice the flat frontal figures and the fact that Justinian has a halo. It's not just because he's a saint, it's because he's a divine ruler chosen by God. And right next to him, his wife, Empress Theodora, always hollowed and powerful. These mosaics weren't just art. They were political statements. It sounds similar to ancient Rome, doesn't it? So, how do early Christianity and Byzantine art stack up against each other? Early Christian art is more symbolic, often borrowed from Roman and Greek styles, while staying low-key. It was all about using secret symbols to express new ideas. Byzantine art, on the other hand, goes full-on spiritual spectacle. It's not just about storytelling anymore, it's about creating a sense of divine presence through gold, mosaics, and other worldly things. It's like going from a quiet underground player group to a full-blown cosmic worship party. The transition from Roman to early Christianity and Byzantine art involves new techniques. It shows how art evolved to meet the needs of changing world, from covered Christian symbols in catacombs to massive mosaics proclaiming the glory of God. And the emperor. Art was constantly adapting to access the spiritual and political shifts of the time. These styles laid the groundwork for everything that came after, from the medieval period right up to the Renaissance. So next time you see a gold mosaic or an iconic church, remember, it all started with the art we've talked about today.